Welcome to Leaders with Lessons. I'm your host, Shaun Walsh, where I talk with senior leaders, founders, and decision makers about the realities of leading change, tech transformation, and personal growth. The show is brought to you by the Get It Done framework. It's about helping leaders who've got no shortage of options, especially around tech and business change, get clear on which direction is actually worth backing before they commit or continue. The way in is the Opportunity Explorer, a 1-hour session with a senior pair of eyes. No presentation or business case needed, just a conversation. You come away with a recommended way forward, the real risk named, and a clear next move. If that sounds useful right now, the link's in the show notes. But on today's show, our guest is Josh Dawson. Josh, welcome to the conversation. Tell us a little bit about you and the work that you do.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you for inviting me on. So I am COO at a business called Tamarindo, and we are global energy transition specialists. We do quite a lot of things, but essentially we are a platform where senior leaders and key players in the industry can come together to connect with each other, to learn and gain insight from the industries that they operate in, and also kind of grow their presence. We do that through the various events that we run, in terms of conferences, award ceremonies, and also kind of smaller scale stuff, such as private closed door roundtables for specific discussions. We have in-house editors that produce our insight content as well, which then feed into those events.
Fantastic.
And all of that also then feeds directly into the strategic communications consultancy that we deliver as well, which kind of helps those leaders, those businesses, especially emerging businesses, really establish themselves in the market.
Sounds good. So a lot of threads there to weave. I mean, it sounds like it's about connecting with people and providing a platform to help them progress, either businessly and personally, with what they're looking at.
Yeah, very much so.
Good stuff. And your experience in that, I'm sure, with different methods of connecting and being exposed to perhaps different types of businesses, what you've picked up along the way, if you were to cast your mind back to when you started off in business, is there any lessons that you could pass on?
I think, certainly that probably above all else, the most important thing to focus on in business and working life is the relationships with others. There's connections, like I say. Everything we do involves other people in life and in work. So you can't kind of operate as an isolated entity. So I've always just kind of naturally focused on those relationships, but I would definitely advise myself, if I could go back, to make sure that those are kind of a priority, but also start by kind of focusing on the relationship with yourself first.
Okay.
As well. That's an important relationship that we often overlook. It's the one that can kind of hold you back the most, I think, in life. You don't get it right.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, you have to have those connections with others. To make any sort of progress, I think.
So build the connections with others, but perhaps don't discount your connection, your relationship with yourself within that.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's. I always feel that's an often overlooked aspect of our lives, but it's really, really important. It's foundational.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like a lifetime quest, certainly from my perspective, to understand myself, whether we frame that as growth, learning a new skill, adapting within the business environment, changing to phases of life through the seasons of life. For me,
I don't think we ever stop
ourselves
or learning about the world around us as well, because it constantly changes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of beautiful aspect of it, I think. Perhaps daunting, but I think it would make for a boring life if we didn't have constant evolution.
It would. And then how we adapt. I mean, it's the space we operate in. I don't think anybody or very few people are have the luxury of not working with technology now, whether it's increasing that capability within a business or serving the external businesses that we support. But I'm certainly seeing the change speed up. And then what does that mean from a business and a self and an adaptation point of view in response to that change? Are you seeing any trends within your industry and the work that you're doing driven by technology?
I mean, it's interesting, when I had the invite from you to come on this episode and talk about, I don't know, this kind of angle around change leadership in particular. And I know that's kind of something that you specialize in
Yeah.
business. I considered for a minute, and we often talk about change leadership as a particular style of leadership, which is a specialism. But I thought, well, actually, I don't think you can be a leader in business these days without being a change leader.
Okay.
Because the pace of change around you is just rapidly increasing all of the time, especially with new technology.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there is such a thing as a status quo leader.
No, there's an adaptive leader, but then I suppose the counter to that is that within the consciousness of somebody. And if it is, do you build that awareness which gives you more options for that personal growth and change in response to the environment that you're in and the challenges that you face? And if it's not, what's the risks within that?
I think seeking to stay still or seek. I mean, I guess there's a difference between stability in a way that you operate,
Yeah.
and seeking to stand still as a business. It would be that. And it does feel like sometimes in life and certainly in work, you want to have a moment to catch your breath. But you may get to a stage where you've got all of your ducks in a row, or whatever you want to term it as. But the world around you, like I say, is constantly changing. So I think there's a huge risk in not leaning into that.
Mm.
And I think the difficulty is identifying where the change needs to actually happen and where the rest of it is kind of noise, because there's an awful lot of noise, isn't there?
There is.
Especially, the topical subject, the adoption of AI, especially in the workplace.
Yeah.
There's a lot of noise. It's really, really interesting observation. I find it really interesting, how it's panning out, how we respond to it as organizations and as individuals as well. Because, there's no doubt the technology is here to stay. And before long, will become, just integrated into our lives in the same way the internet is.
Yeah, the new normal. It become the new normal, and we'll be on to the next cycle of things.
That's it. So I think in terms of leadership, I try and focus more on the kind of overarching fundamentals around how we use technology to kind of support our workflows and do better work as people, rather than becoming too obsessed on the specific technology type. Because I think the fundamental principles around adopting change there and designing organizations that are technology enabled are the same, irrespective of what the technology is. I mean, yes, AI is a kind of certain step change in the available technology compared to what we've had previously, and needs its own approach. I don't deny that. But soon that will become the norm, like we say, and there'll be something else new. That needs specific skill sets. But I think the key to success here is really about being open-minded to how these things can help the business operate, and in our own individual lives as well, I suppose.
Yeah, it's almost like you've sensed my next question. So rather than I'll mitigate myself driving us down the rabbit hole of AI and future tech adoption, be it quantum computing or whatever comes next.
Yeah.
But from your personal perspective, it sounds like you're very good at observing the process and then holding the context of what the technology or change um, enables that with. So, are you are you conscious of being able to hold that and describe it of the way you work in an organization to recognize the movement of that process and the people within it?
I yeah, I do like to be to use a term that's quite often used, a systems thinker. So I
Mm.
like to understand a process from end to end, and I think you kind of need to if you're going to aim to optimize it or improve it or replace it with something else. But really important aspect for me, and I think it comes from having done an ecology degree, is I like to kind of slightly change my approach to be an ecosystem thinker. So have the ability
Nice.
to not only kind of really uh, zero in on a particular steps or a particular system, but how it operates it as part of a wider system. Um,
Right.
to be able, I think, well, it's certainly valuable for me to be able to both zoom in and zoom out
Yeah.
same scenario, because you know the world we live in and down to the organizations that we work in are relatively complex beings, um, and are not just a series of isolated activities. So I think it is really useful to be able to understand whatever you're working on in the moment.
Mm.
How does that contribute to the greater machine? Um,
Got got you.
and
That
where the
sounds like a real
mechanisms.
strength. So you're holding that, you're recognizing, just say what's occurring within the moment. So some activity, some process within the business, but you're able to take that and hold that within the context of the broader ecosystem.
Yeah, well, whatever level that is appropriate to kind of zoom out to, because of course there could be infinite, right? You
Yeah, yeah,
on
yeah.
global level and drive yourself insane, and you can't control, most of the components outside. But
Yeah.
it's whether if we're talking about, some specifics like I don't know a new process for approving invoices in finance, um, that's quite specific. That's one kind of niche area of an organization, but actually it's useful to zoom out a little bit and go a bit higher and actually think, who are the users of this system? What are their considerations? What
Yeah.
are some of the conflicting things going on here? How do we make sure that we're actually delivering true value here in whatever we're changing, and not fixing one tiny bit over here, but actually having a series of knock-on effects elsewhere, which kind of is negating any value that you've delivered micro
Yeah.
level, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So it's the layers. So I understand maybe the core problem that you're seeking to solve within the change of something within an organization, and then being able to move yourself up through the layers that stop at an appropriate point and perhaps recognize the elements you can control and can't control.
Oh yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
You've got to learn to be able to make your peace with the things you can't control. Right?
Well, it's a good philosophy for life.
Well, maybe I'd like to say that I was perfect at that. I'm certainly not, but it's a good perspective to try and keep.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is interesting. It almost brings us full circle back around to building that awareness. I think awareness within the context. And if I can just kind of hold that thread from what we've talked about there, is appreciate the change within the context of the organization, or even maybe even the personal aspect of it, and acknowledge what you can't control, and maybe hold the tension between the lower level detail of what's happening, but then in relation to that broader ecosystem,
Mm.
hold yourself within it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it again. It's really useful to not see these things in isolation. How do
Yeah,
they form a piece of a larger puzzle?
yeah,
And is there ways that you can kind of create even more value by recognizing the overlaps there? Because you could also seek to solve another issue in the process
yeah,
that you previously kind of weren't aware of because you kind of had the blinkers on around a particular matter that you're trying to solve in the moment.
yeah, yeah. That makes sense. I think that's a valuable lesson. We're about at time, Josh. And thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it. You've been great. Um,
Thank you for having me. It's great to talk about these things.
yeah, thank you. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
I guess I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so via my LinkedIn profile, happy to take connection requests and messages if people did want to get in touch.
Brilliant. Thank you. Oh, I recommend that everybody connects with Josh. And as a reminder, this show is brought to you by the Get It Done framework. So if you've got no shortage of options, especially around tech and business change, but need to get clear on where you actually are before your next move, this can help. The way in is the Opportunity Explorer, a 1 hour session with a senior pair of eyes that gets the problem out of your head and into something you can work with. You come away with a clear next step. And if that sounds useful right now, the link's going to be in the show notes. But until the next episode, remember, the obstacle becomes the way.